China's economy is in a rapid decline. The Chinese Communist government appears alarmed and recently launched a series of remedial measures. Will these measures work? First, on November 28, 2023, Beijing hosted the opening ceremony of the first China International Supply Chain Promotion Expo. In a speech, Premier Li Qiang claimed to oppose protectionism and all forms of decoupling and breaking chains. We are willing to work with all countries to build a closer industrial chain and supply chain partnership. We will deepen international cooperation in the industry chain and supply chain with practical actions. China will continue to create a first-class, international, rule-of-law-based and market-oriented business environment to protect the legitimate rights and interests of all kinds of enterprises. We will treat Chinese and foreign enterprises equally so as to provide more convenience and better protection for everyone to invest and do business. Second, at the same time, from November 28th to 29th, the Chinese Communist Party or CCP leader Xi Jinping went to Shanghai to visit. It was the first time in 5 years since 2018 that Xi visited Shanghai's financial organizations. Shanghai is symbolic, with a population of more than 25 million people, contributing nearly 4% of China's economic output and leading the revitalization of the Yangtze River economic belt. The visit also coincides with the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. Against the backdrop of the West's desire to decouple from China, the visit by Xi Jinping signals that local officials will be encouraged to step up efforts to promote market liberalization and more cross-border trade and capital flows, and that the authorities will further open up the consumer and financial markets to boost economic development. Third, the Chinese government has issued documents to support private enterprises 4 times in 2023, adding up to a staggering 106 measures. On November 27, 2023, 8 departments including the Central Bank of China, the General Administration of Financial Supervision, and the China Securities Regulatory Commission jointly issued a circular on strengthening financial support for private enterprises, including real estate enterprises, and proposed 25 measures. The notice emphasizes that banking financial institutions should increase the support for first loans and credit loans and carry out financial services for the industrial chain and supply chain. The notice reads, "Do not blindly suspend, suppress, withdraw, or cut off loans. It's necessary to provide firm support for the issuance, listing, and refinancing of private enterprises and to support qualified private enterprises to go overseas for listing." It looks like the CCP is trying to reverse the economy back to the way it was before the epidemic. Is it possible? Let's analyze it point by point. Officials from the organizer of the Chain Expo said that a total of 515 Chinese and foreign companies with a foreign business ratio of 26%, covering 55 countries and regions, participated in this event. Among them, American enterprises responded enthusiastically, accounting for 20% of the total number of overseas exhibitors. Fortune 500 companies such as Apple, Amazon, Tesla, and FedEx sent senior representatives to participate. In the whole venue of 5 chains in one exhibition area, American enterprises were seen in all of them. The first CISCE will vertically showcase advanced technologies, products, and future development trends of all links of the chains, and horizontally display the services such as finance, logistics, and platform enterprises. Among the exhibitors, there are 53 of the world's top 500 enterprises, 57 of China's top 500 enterprises, a large number of SMEs that apply special, sophisticated techniques to produce unique and novel products, as well as hidden champion enterprises in China. They will join forces to tell the stories of supply chain cooperation between China and other countries. In our opinion, the CCP's attempt to retain various manufacturers making parts and components precisely reflects that the CCP has encountered difficulties. This is because manufacturers of various industries who would normally find their own upstream and downstream supply chains don't need a special expo to promote their products. This expo has actually highlighted a weakness of China's economy. On November 27th, more than 200 migrant workers came to a company in Shenzhen, the window city of southern China's reform and opening up, to claim their wages. Shenzhen is one of the most prosperous cities in the manufacturing industry, serving foreign exports. It reflects the knock-on effect of a supply chain that's pulling out of China at a rapid pace. Here, instead of getting their wages, the workers were driven away by police officers. On the early morning of November 28th, the area around the company's building was cordoned off and workers were no longer able to enter. A business leader threatened the workers, saying, "The Communist Party is our own people's government. What money do we need when working for our own people?" This is how the Chinese government treats its own workers. The multinational companies that come to China are also, to some extent, unprotected like them. Of course, there are always overseas entrepreneurs and investors who don't believe it. They follow the business logic that China has a market and a population so large that there is always a chance for profit. And the Beijing government's offer is, if you don't criticize China's human rights, you can have preferential treatment when coming to China to invest. Now the authorities organize this kind of expo as an outreach, trying to create a pompous impression that the Chinese market is still popular, attracting foreign investment. It's the equivalent of editing a story, trying to direct supply chain regrouping and keeping important supply chains in China. In our opinion, the withdrawal of foreign investment from China has become a trend, and the official data of China, which has always been criticized as inflated, has become increasingly embarrassing. China's State Administration of Foreign Exchange said that in the third quarter of 2023, direct investment liabilities, a measure of foreign direct investment in China, was negative for the first time since statistics began in 1998, with a deficit of US $11.8 billion. Cumulative foreign direct investment in the first 9 months of the year amounted to only $15 billion, a drop of nearly 92% compared to the 2022 total. The trend is likely irreversible. With the introduction of the Anti-Espionage Law in 2023, which expands the scope of anti-espionage operations, the Chinese government has scared away investors. A 3-year epidemic and lockdown have led more and more countries to express concerns about supply chain dependence on China. Over the past year, the US and the European Union have called for reduced reliance on China in specific areas to de-risk the supply chain, while at the same time attempting to cut off Chinese firms' access to advanced semiconductors. As the Communist Party's totalitarian rule threatens the world, it has been unable to obtain advanced chips for its core strategy. Therefore, the chip issue has been a bottleneck for the Beijing government. Among them, the US-China relationship in particular plays a pivotal influence. U.S. strengthening supply chain resilience originated when President Trump asked the Department of Defense in 2017 to present a security report on strengthening the U.S. defense supply chain. When President Biden took office, he issued another report in 2021 to strengthen the U.S. supply chain to increase economic resilience. Right before the opening of the Chain Expo in China, President Biden established the White House Council on Supply Chain Resilience on November 27th, and at the same time announced nearly 30 new measures to strengthen the supply chain, which plays a critical role in the U.S. economy and national security. There is already a general trend to move away from the red supply chain. Now let's take a look at how bad China's economy really is. Ordinary people's descriptions might give you an idea of what it's like in China.
The end of schooling is to be a delivery guy. The end of working at a job is to pay off loans. The end of starting a business is to be saddled with debt. The end of being a boss is to become a deadbeat. The end of reality is hopelessness. The end of life is to say goodbye. And so it goes from generation to generation. Delivery, loan repayment, debt, hopelessness, say goodbye, the end of life.
This sounds like a joke, but for many Chinese people, it's reality. Let's take a look at the segment described by the lady above. The end of being a boss is to become a deadbeat. This is just one example. On November 29, 2023, the owner of a supermarket in a northern Chinese city ran away with the money and became a deadbeat. A large number of franchises and suppliers slept on the streets to defend their rights.
Leipo Grand Group is a big liar. Return our hard-earned money. The man is a big liar. A big liar. This person is a big liar. Can you give me back my hard-earned money? The man is a big liar. A big liar. This person is a big liar. Can you give me back my hard-earned money?
还没有，都睡了，睡觉了。
Go to sleep, go to sleep.
Sleeping on the side of the road? It's not a pretty sight.
没事，流浪费也没事。一个是一个基本。
Let's take a look at another segment where the end of schooling is to become a delivery guy. This is a wealthy city, Hangzhou, in southern China. When a delivery guy ran a red light, he was confronted by the traffic police. He was so nervous that he got down on his knees and begged for mercy. But the police showed no intention of letting him go. The delivery guy collapsed in the end, crying as he screamed, "I don't want to live anymore." Why? Nowadays, the competition for becoming a delivery man is becoming fierce. So much so that the rule in this circle is that if a delivery guy violates a traffic rule and is reported to the police, he will be permanently banned and won't be able to deliver anymore. Losing a job as a delivery person is almost like cutting off a source of livelihood for many unemployed young people. In the midst of an economic recession, competition is fierce in all sectors in China, including this one.
好消息，好消息！山水湾娱乐会所免费 KTV，免费足浴，免费小吃，欢迎大家光临体验。好消息，好消息！山水。
As mentioned before, the Chinese government has issued documents to support private enterprises 4 times this year, and the total number of measures amounted to as many as 106. It has been almost a year, but there is no sign of improvement in private enterprises. It seems that not many private entrepreneurs believe in the government's promises. Recently, the real estate sector has been given an emergency bailout by the CCP. This is because China's real estate accounts for about a quarter or more of the entire economy. If China's real estate problems continue, the debt problem will roll over and the economy will continue to decline. In the past 10 months, the annual growth rate of China's real estate sales has been declining or has been continuously negative. People don't have the money to buy a home or don't dare to buy a home, resulting in even more difficult times for developers. It's a key element in the real estate industry's growing problems. Therefore, in late November 2023, the CCP launched 2 major measures to rescue the market. It wants to set up a whitelist of real estate enterprises covering about 50 real estate developers, including state-owned enterprises and large private enterprises. Companies on the whitelist will receive full support in terms of policy and financial resources. This is a major judgment based on China's economic and social development stage and the development laws of the real estate sector itself. To understand the current situation of the real estate industry, we first must be fully aware of this major change. We will work with relevant departments to guide local governments to conscientiously implement these major arrangements. Strive to meet the people's housing needs and promote the stable, healthy, and high-quality development of the real estate market. The white list shows that the government has told developers that despite the fact that we'll protect a few, not all big ones will be protected. It leaves developers in unpredictability because they don't know the criteria the government uses for selection. This may usher in a period of mergers in the real estate industry, and those large real estate companies that don't make the list are in a deep crisis of broken capital chains. It's tantamount to a death sentence. In other words, some real estate developers will be protected, but others will remain under pressure. So how can the real estate enterprises on the whitelist be saved? It's said that the 50 real estate enterprises are mainly selected by the financial institutions, and then each commercial bank will claim the rescued real estate enterprises. In addition, in order to reactivate the real estate industry, China's three major ministry-level commissions, including the Central Bank, the General Administration of Financial Supervision, and the China Securities Regulatory Commission, jointly convened a symposium for financial institutions on November 17th and put forward the requirement of 3 no less thans to each bank. First, the bank's real estate loan growth rate is not lower than the average real estate loan growth rate in the banking industry. Second, the growth rate of loans to non-state real estate enterprises is not lower than the bank's real estate loan growth rate. Third, the growth rate of personal mortgages to non-state real estate enterprises is not lower than the bank's mortgage growth rate. This is in complete contrast to the government's 3 red lines policy set in August 2020, which was intended to restrict banks from lending to real estate companies. 3 years ago, the purpose of the 3 red lines was to curb the financial risks of real estate enterprises' debt expansion. As we mentioned repeatedly, the development of China's real estate sector is a huge Ponzi scheme. The policy therefore triggered a huge crisis that was already lurking. Many real estate enterprises are in financial difficulties to the extent of going bankrupt, and the local government's land finance is difficult to continue, triggering a wave of corporate bankruptcies, civil servant salary cuts, home buyers suspending their mortgages, and so on. These are the victims of the rotten-tailed buildings who have nowhere to turn to. They are burdened with huge bank loans, but they cannot get their homes. There seems to be no other way but to kneel and kowtow to the police and the leaders. For the officials, there are too many people kneeling and kowtowing to them. The 3 red lines have now become 3 no less thans, declaring the end of the 3 red lines. In fact, last year, the Chinese government launched a financial policy that said it would release as many loans as possible, and that it would relax its lending standards for real estate companies. If banks at all levels and in all parts of China really respond to the central government's policy, what will be the result? According to our observation, it will lead to a significant increase in the non-performing assets of banks. What follows is a financial crisis, especially a banking crisis. Banks aren't dumb. They know that if they lend money to these developers, these real estate companies, it's very likely that at the end of the day, they will become non-performing assets or bad debts, even though the CCP has put pressure on the banks to lend high amounts of money. But individual commercial banks have their own interests to consider. Real estate companies lack quality assets to provide collateral. Under such circumstances, how can banks dare to lend out loans? What's more, many small-scale banks have long been in crisis. These are the victims of the disappearance of a large number of deposits in the village banks in Henan province. It has been more than 600 days and they haven't been able to get their deposits back. Therefore, the system of the whitelist, unless there is a hard, local political directive to force it down, is just as difficult to implement. The CCP has changed its policy from the 3 red lines to the new 3 rules. This shows that the way the CCP tackles problems is still to use its habitual method of planning and commanding. In the Beijing government's economic blueprint, it also hopes to develop electric cars, semiconductors, chips, and artificial intelligence into pillar industries.
As renewable energy and other new drivers of economy continue to grow, and as the recent policy measures gradually take effect, such as those supporting the real estate sector, reducing the debt burden of the local governments, as well as the issuance of an additional 1 trillion RMB central government bond, I'm confident that China will enjoy healthy and sustainable growth in the 2024 and beyond.
In reality, the prospects for these industries are actually very difficult. Apart from the international environment, especially the US-China relationship, an important point is that the mode of operation of these industries is similar to that of real estate. Beijing is still living in a planned economy mentality, expanding the size and power of the government and using huge government subsidies to get the industry going. But this has led to a series of problems, such as overcapacity in the electric vehicle industry and serious fraud and corruption in the chip industry. All in all, the CCP's efforts to save the economy are likely to crash and burn under the framework of a planned economy.